So there we go.
All right. Okay, I think I've found the screen.
Super. Nice graphics, Jen.
Perfect. All right, tell me if you can just see just the one slide that says community building.
No, now we can see one that says, "Hi, I'm Jen." It says next slide.
Oh, poo. Why can you see that?
We don't mind seeing your notes, Jen. It's fine.
What can you see now? Can you see the opposite now?
Yeah, just building communities in 2022.
Okay,
Perfect.
I've got you on the wrong screen over there. But that's okay. We will deal with it. All is good. So yes, we're going to talk about community building and the ups and downs and the circles and why do it and what to watch for, and a little bit of my experience, I guess, as we go through. So for those of you who I haven't met, and there might be one or two of you in here, but most of you will know my story really quite well. But I did start my career in law, and then I went into retail. As my story goes, my best friend and I had way too much wine to drink one night, threw in our corporate jobs and bought a retail store. And that's where I found my love for social media and marketing, which is what I do day in and day out now. But I guess through my social media and marketing business came about this crazy idea, and the best ideas start out crazy, right? On a Friday night driving home from Hay in New South Wales. If none of you know where Hay is in New South Wales, it's this little tiny micro town that I'd been doing a speaking gig at. And it was sort of, just one of these things of, how can I help support rural and regional small businesses? And this is back in October 2019. So born was the thought of building a Facebook group, which is one of the, I guess, the biggest thing that we will talk about as we go through today. So that was in October 2019. The group does have, I think, I haven't checked recently, but last time I checked, I think it had 368,000 members in it. And from that was born a marketplace called Spend With Us, which I'll chat a little bit more about as we go along. But we are here to talk about community and really why building a community in 2022, and the benefits of building a community. And most of these you will know. And I'm really interested to, when I finish this little presentation, of having a conversation with you all of tips and tricks that you know with building your own communities. This isn't a new concept. But as I talk as I go on, it is a concept that I think some of us have to rethink as a business model, not so much as just something we do naturally. Aligning your community with your purpose, and along the way I'll give some tips, some tricks, some lessons, and some stories. So about my communities, I guess I belong to lots of communities. Obviously this is a beautiful one that I belong to, but I also lead some communities. So my Like-Minded Business Owners Facebook group, which is my tiny little Facebook group that has about 1,200 members in it. Then I have my Buy From a Bush Business Facebook group, which is the big one with 368,000 odd members in it. Sorry. From that comes a community called Spend With Us, which is the marketplace. And of course, I run also an offline community because these things aren't always online. My Women in Business group, which is my small group that I run, in Northeast Victoria on the border here where I actually live. So why build communities anyway? So I guess for me, I talk a lot about we've got to stop, caring and wondering how many people like our post and how many followers we have on Instagram and how many, connections we have on LinkedIn, because numbers don't mean anything anymore. I love that little saying down the bottom there, people come for the content, but they stay for the community. So I think sometimes as small business owners and entrepreneurs, we spend so much time building the content, trying to attract the person, that we attract the person and then we move on to attracting the next person. And I think it's like just one of those little things that we forget that, what's in it next for that person who we did catch their attention with our, with our really great content that we had. I should have mentioned on my communities, of course, I have my podcast community as well. And of course, we would all rather have, 200 people that we're connected to that buy from us again and refer business to us than having 10,000 or 20,000 people, who don't even know who we are. So I guess as far as building a community, this is what we need to stop focusing on and start focusing on the elements in our business, in our marketing, in our strategy that is building content for the people that are already in our community, rather than always looking for that new business. I think the stat, and I know the stat's quite old, but it's 6 or 7 times more expensive to get a new customer than what it is to nurture your existing customers to come and buy from you and buy from you again. So why does it matter, this whole community thing? Well, you will heard a lot of people talk about know, like, and trust factors, but this is what it goes back to. It's about building a business that is profitable, sustainable, that has a community that know, like, and trust you. And of course, having like-minded people, surrounding yourself with like-minded people who will buy from you or have bought from you and will continue to do over and over again, and people who refer business to you because they love what you do and they love you. Like, I have people in my world who refer business to me all the time that will never be my customers. They're just not small business owners, but they love what I do. They see the change that I make, and they're always referring people into my business. Like, I want more of those people in my world. Actually, I want more people who will buy from me and do that. But they're not always your buyer, these people in the community. Sometimes they are simply your referrers. But it would make life and business and sales so much easier if we had this community of people who, I guess, are walking, talking referrals for us and walking, talking testimonials for us. So how do you build a community? I guess communities need leaders. So you obviously have to show up, to lead your community. And again, when I look at some communities that I belong to and other communities that I watch from afar, that is the problem, that the leader isn't showing up. The leader has someone has invented this great community, but people are in it for themselves, and the leader hasn't taken enough control. And I'm sure we've all been in a Facebook group that spirals, and it spirals because there's no leaders. And if I can be so brass as to suggest a Facebook group that is like this, that would be Like-Minded Bitches Drinking Wine. I have no idea who runs that group whatsoever. I'm not in the group all the time, but I don't recall ever seeing a post that has the word admin under it. It spirals so quickly, which I understand in a big community is really hard sometimes to stop things before they spiral. People can type really, really fast. And I get that, but I don't know who runs that community. And I think that's a real tragedy that they aren't building themselves as part of that community, because it is such an engaged community, good things or bad things. You need to make this, you need to build a community that is a place or a platform that's easily accessible for people to I guess, engage and to be part of that community. I know, Jules, you've got one on Mighty Networks, and you've also got a Facebook group. Facebook, unfortunately, again, have us by the short and curlies, because it's so convenient just to post into a Facebook group and to build something on Facebook. And it does make me cringe a little bit that I have built this enormous Facebook group on land that I don't own, because I'm such a person of, don't build, empires on Crown land. And that's exactly what happened, is I built an empire on Crown land. If, touch wood, that group disappeared, or Facebook grew, disappeared tomorrow, I'm screwed. I don't have the details for every single person in that group. We have something coming up in the next couple of weeks that we are changing the group a little bit to try and counteract that. But the reality is we will never have all those people's details. So sometimes convenient comes with the negativity of building something on somebody else's land that, you don't have full control over. But I think of other groups that offline on things like, Mighty Networks and things like that. And I need a reminder up here every week to go and, say something in that group or chat in that group or go and check something in that group. It doesn't come naturally to me because I haven't made it a habit. Whereas if you're on Facebook, you see things because you're already on there. So even offline, it needs to be somewhere, that they feel safe, they feel secure, but also it's easily accessible to them to get to as well. And of course, it needs to be customer focused. Yes, you're trying to grow a group, and today we're talking about growing groups as a financial benefit to you as a business owner, but it still does need to be customer centric. There's a couple of groups that I belong to or used to belong to, and they're too focused on the leader. There is that fine line, I guess, where the leader wants all the power and really isn't creating the community sense. So it does still need to be customer centric as you're building this. I think, as humans, one of our biggest needs is to belong to something. That's why religion is so big. And that's why, other types of organizations get people to belong to them, is because we want to belong to something. That's part of our human nature. So obviously, if you want to build a community, you have to make people think that they belong to something that is bigger than themselves. So types of communities in your business, of course, can be lots of things. These are just a couple of suggestions that I came up with. Your email list can be your community if you nurture it well. I email my list once a week, and I don't have a massive list. Excuse me, but I probably get around 5% of those people that email me back. So I will send them an email, and then they will email me back, perhaps with the story that they've got about the story that I told, or something like that. And then we create this little email trail. You can create communities through your email list. Obviously, Facebook groups, other online group places such as Mighty Networks, offline groups as well. And of course, then there is your close friends group on Instagram, where you can send, just your close friends, whoever you have chosen. And they don't have to be close friends. They can be your clients as well, who feel like friends. And, that is content only for them on Instagram that you're sending as well. So like I said before, we all want to belong to a community, and we all belong to many communities, but our communities are the ones we actually lead, the ones we show up for. So communities also need a purpose. And the purpose just can't be that you want them to buy things from you. You need a higher purpose than that. So for all of you, I'd say, what's your purpose in business? And what's your higher purpose than that? So my purpose in business, I would have to say, if I'm looking at my marketing business, or really any of my businesses, is to help small business owners be more profitable, to make marketing a priority, and, to build the business that they deserve. But my higher purpose is, I want people to stop only thinking about rural and regional when there's a disaster. So I want the national newspapers and the national TV stations and all of these people to stop only looking at rural and regional Australia when we're on fire, or when we've been flooded, or when we're in a drought, like really trying to put rural communities on the map. So that's like my higher purpose. But the way that I feel I can do that is by helping businesses grow. So what's your purpose in business, and what's your higher purpose, and who is that in the community that you can start, bringing into your world by people understanding what your purpose is and your higher purpose. So my big group, I just wanted to sort of, I guess, give a little bit of a rundown on that. So Buy From a Bush Business, basically I was on a tour back in October 2019 around regional towns in New South Wales, doing marketing workshops. And Buy From the Bush, which you will all know as an Instagram, I think it was actually a hashtag at the time. So it hadn't actually become what it is now. It was a hashtag. And every time I did a presentation, people would say, how do we use this hashtaggy thing? There's one thing I know about a lot of rural and regional businesses, is that they're not always up to date with everything. I think the pandemic pushed them a lot more than what 2019 had ever done for them to get online and to learn these platforms. But most of the people I spoke to back then were still struggling around Facebook and posting on Facebook, never alone understanding how to, use a hashtag to get traction on Instagram. So after hearing this question over and over, which is, I guess, a really good lesson for all of us in small businesses to really give ourselves time to think about the questions that we keep hearing over and over and think, okay, well, how can I solve that problem? Because that's what we are all about. We're all about solving problems for our clients. And so for me, it was just like, well, people don't understand how to post on Instagram, but nearly everyone knows how to put a post on Facebook. So that's when I came up with the idea for the group. And it did grow 100% organically. It still grows organically. There's probably somewhere between 200 and 500 people that want to come into this group every day. Some are buyers, some are sellers, some are both. But it's sort of, it grew because, I invited all my friends, and I know, Jules remembers getting this little message saying, please come and like my new group. And I invited my clients and they invited their friends, and it basically just kind of grew like that, like a bit of a spider web. People would go and we would, encourage people to invite their friends and go through their friend list and just invite everyone. But it had that common purpose. It had the common purpose of, helping drought-stricken towns, because as I live on a farm in rural New South Wales, and I know that if farmers don't have money, towns don't have money. It's just the reality of living in an agricultural based, area, is that if farmers don't have the money to buy new machinery and to, spend money in the town, then the towns really struggle. So it was like, how can I get people to have rely less on foot traffic and get more exposure without them having to get a website and all that sort of thing. So that's how it sort of came about, with that common purpose. And of course, little did I know that bushfires were only a couple of months away. And then we had our first lot of floods, and then we had the pandemic. And of course, this year we've seen even more floods. So it was kind of like really good, bad timing in some ways. I guess the universe talks when the universe talks. I have to believe that, because I don't really understand how I got landed here otherwise. So it has just continued to grow. There were some really icky times during COVID-19. Anyone who might follow me, on Instagram a little bit closely might remember a post that went up on Instagram. I can't even remember. It was sometime last year, but someone had written me a direct message telling me that I should be absolutely ashamed of myself that I'm not opening that group up to every small business in Australia that's struggling, and why should I only be allowed to open it up to rural and regional small businesses when every small business was hurting. That cut a lot, and I have to say there was lots of tears over that message. But the reality was, and what I wrote on Instagram was, people need to realize that no one's coming to save them. You have to save yourself. Just one Facebook group isn't going to save your business. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, it hasn't all been roses. There's been a lot of personal growth in there. And some things have got really tough. The more people you bring into a group, the tougher it actually gets. I specifically remember around the 110,000 mark, 110,000 member mark, my group changed. And it was almost, it was just so obvious. It was kind of like I'd had this group that were all about supporting and encouraging and sharing stories and helping each other. And it was kind of like that Venn diagram that just kind of tipped. And all of a sudden I started to get the Jenn Donovan haters, the trolls, everything, I guess the tall poppy syndrome, cutter downers, things like that, as well as people who thought that, they had more rights than what they do. But at the end of the day, I guess it grew so quickly because of that common purpose that it had. So I love this photo. It's such a great, flattering photo, isn't it? But anyway, I thought, what better photo to use when we're talking about lessons that we've learned. So I learned, the journey isn't always smooth and easy when it comes to being a leader in community. I probably and I didn't write this here, but I probably learned that I was a leader. I probably didn't believe that I was a leader prior to this. I'd have to say that I've seen the absolute worst and absolute best of humanity through that group. I had a really bad experience early on with a couple of admins that I hired to help me. And that story is way too long to probably go into, but basically, they almost ruined the group and almost ruined me. And it was really hard to, see that there were people out there, I guess wolf in sheep's clothing type of thing. I have learned a lot about myself. Good or bad, I've learned that I am too nice, I'm too trusting, and I don't speak up for myself enough. And there are things that I've always known about myself, but I've had to learn to, overcome those. I've learned to trust my gut. If it's not right, it's just not right, and deal with the consequences of that gut feeling. No is an okay response, and I should use it more. And sadly, in some ways, I've learned that the more you give, the more some people will expect. And I think anyone who runs a community knows that. The more time and energy you give for free, the more people will expect for free. So it's, as a business model, it's working out what that looks like in your business. I've also learned that no one knows your journey like you, and you shouldn't expect them to understand your journey as you go through as well. It's not up to them to understand your journey, but that's just for you to share if you want to. And marketing involves being generous and kind, but it also involves marketing the brand, the community, and you as the leader. Again, if we go back to like-minded bitches drinking wine, who are these people? They need to market themselves, if of course that works into their business model, which perhaps it doesn't. So be it. I'm just looking at it from a different angle. So things that make a successful community, of course, is a leader, or a leader who's willing to grow and learn, a common place with common values, strict community rules. And when I say strict community rules, I mean that rules that you are going to put in place and make people comply, because if they see a crack, they will make it a river. Like if you let one person get away with something, it all of a sudden can become a real shitstorm, excuse the French. But I've had people sort of con me into letting them do something because of their circumstances, or they can't, or their uncircumstances. And all of a sudden someone else has seen that and said, well, how come I can't do that? And then someone else is like, I want to do it too. And, you just create more problems with each other. So being strict can be hard. I find it hard, but of course I've learnt that I have to be, because otherwise I will end up in a very bad situation. Sometimes you need help, and it's okay to ask for help. You need super fans, and they will come. You do need super fans, those people who absolutely love what you do, hang on every word of what you say, and will shout you from the tops of any hill that they could possibly find. They will come as you build the community. I believe that 100%, but we do need some super fans as well. Easy and convenient access to the community, that members of the community feel some ownership to the community. They feel like they belong to the community. And of course, it's a safe place to build mutual trust. A community member feels like they belong, they believe in the community. So those values, again, if your community doesn't understand what you stand for and what the values are of the community, then it's hard for them to be part of the community and believe in the community in order to help you build your business. We need to allow place for them to tell their story and have their needs fulfilled to a certain degree. A community member will always help other community members, but they also need help. I love in my, so we have a sellers group, which is our community off our marketplace. So it's a private sellers group where they ask questions and tell stories and all of that sort of thing. And it warms my heart so much when someone puts in there, how do you do this? And 6 people from the community respond before I can even get to it. It's just like, this is what it's about. That brings me so much joy. And of course, the community members want to feel like their contributions are, of course, valued. Benefits of creating a community: you become the go-to person in that space, in that industry, or whatever it is that you are building this community in. You become that go-to person, whether that's for clients or media or partnerships and collaborations, or whatever that looks like for you. You create brand ambassadors as well, increase referrals by having raving fans or super fans in your business and your community. So they almost become a brand ambassador for you. You have a direct line of feedback, and this is probably one of the most positive things I've found out of having communities, no matter what size it is that you get to test and measure marketing on your community, or ask their opinion on things, or get ideas from your community. Quite often, I think probably once a quarter, I'll put up in, my communities, topics for my podcast, for instance. Has anyone got any burning questions that they would like answered? Because, I'm up to episode 201. I'm starting to run out of ideas, or, not giving myself space enough to think about ideas. So I want to know what they want to know. So, you do get to have that direct line of feedback if you want to change something, or you want an opinion on something. Of course, you need to always watch who you are asking. I get that. But, your community is a great way of doing that. Increase of revenue, I guess that's a bit of a no-brainer when you are building a community to help your business, is that you will have that increase in revenue, but also hopefully the increase in retention of clients and customers as well, that they will stay with you longer. Again, people come for the content, but they stay for the community. We can respond really swiftly to market shifts, which is really interesting as well. I always find that small business has this over big business, is that, as small business owners, as entrepreneurs, we can change our business really quite quickly, depending on, what is happening out there in society and the community. I guess, we've seen that in the last 2 years, 100%, how quickly we can pivot was the word of 2021, of course. And your community can help make that happen so much quicker. I guess one example I think of with Buy From a Bush business, several examples, but the one that came to mind the first was about wine. Why would that be that I would think of wine first? But can you remember back a couple of years ago when China put a huge tax on Australian wines, and Australian wine industry was going to struggle exporting wine to such a big market? Well, we were able to, start offering packages to small boutique wineries and getting them onto our platforms and helping them create more sales in their business. Yes, of course, we were never going to, exchange what we could sell for them as opposed to what China would buy, but it opened up new markets for them, and it made people in the community tag their local winery and want to support them as well through that common theme that we did. Of course, the other things we've done is we've been able to do bushfire programs and flood-based programs for small businesses who are suffering adversities through those as well. And of course, you get more website traffic. If you create a community around yourself, website traffic, which of course has so many benefits to it. If you can get more clicks, you can run better ads through your website if that's what you decide to do. Google will rank you higher. You'll come up in more searches for people who perhaps don't know you yet, or are Googling whatever it is that you do. And it just helps with assets all around. The more good website traffic, of course, that you can get. But the two most important things to think about as a leader is remember to show up and remember to lead with value. That they've been probably my two biggest lessons. If I think about small business owners, even outside this idea of communities, the showing up bit is really hard for some small business owners to actually, lead with value, show up, give tips, give tricks, put their face on the camera, share a little bit of their life with their people in order to build that community. So, again, communities need leaders. There's no way that we can sort of get out of that fact. And we also know that if you don't lead your community, but you're building a community, someone else will come and lead it for you. And I've certainly seen in some Facebook groups, there have been people come and take over those Facebook groups purely because the person who invented that group or created that group, I should say, isn't leading the way they should. But that's really it for me. I told you it was a short and sharp little presentation, but I'd love to, just have a bit more of a chat and discuss a little bit more about communities, how you're building them, thinking about that purpose or any questions that you might have. Is that okay, Jules?
That is fantastic. And what a great presentation. That wasn't just I thought it was going to be like 10 minutes when you said quick. That was brilliant. I loved it. So
I could talk underwater.
And look at all the lovely people that are here. So
hello,
I've been writing down questions myself, but if you've got a question, let's just say that you either put your hand up to the screen or use the reactions, and let's get some questions going. Now, I happen to be working with Michelle as her coach, Michelle Derubay, and one of her things is she's about nurses burning out and setting up retreats. So she's just setting up groups now for nurses to be able to talk. So I know she has some questions, but obviously anyone who's got any questions, go for it.
I see Michelle's got one in the group there, in the group chat. How did you get a group started again? Or how do you get a group started again? If you try to be more present and it doesn't work, should you close it and start another one?
Can I tell you the situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, when I first started to think about building a business, I did get a nurses group started, and I had built about 550 members, and it was going for a while, but then I dropped the ball through COVID and I really didn't go in anymore and I left it. So now I'm at a time where I'm trying to pick up and really expand the business. So I've gone back into it, but with not much response. But, it's not that I don't want to give up on it. I could, but I guess how long should I take? If I keep just going in there, perhaps doing some more lives and putting in more things about what I'm doing, how long should I do that until I think, well, this group isn't responding, And the other thing I find really hard is I've been trying to go into lots of groups to get known. And that's the big key thing is getting out there. And a lot of them are saying that they don't want you to advertise in their group, which is fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you get out there and get known? If that's, well, it's only one way, I presume. Then it's, it's advertising and other things like that, and getting out to groups, one-on-one, and being, a speaker. And there's so many different avenues, but I'm finding it really frustrating that I'm trying to get into these groups and I'm, getting that pushback where I've sent them something and they haven't approved it, which is fair enough. But I've still sort of tested them to see if they want to, take that on board, because it's a nursing thing. It's not something that's different to what they're wanting, helping nurses with burnout.
Yeah, okay. So the other groups you're going into are other like nurse-orientated sort of groups, are they? Yeah, okay. Look, I wouldn't start another group necessarily because I think, starting from the bottom is always harder than trying. Like, even if there's 10 people in that group that still want to be part of your group, that's still better than starting from zero. Look, the algorithm towards groups is changing, unfortunately. Do you know whether it's a public or a private group? I'm gathering it's a Facebook group, sorry.
Yeah, it's a Facebook group. It is private. Yeah.
It is private. Yeah. Okay. So the algorithm is changing. Like Mark Zuckerberg, said famously back in 2018 that, we should all be concentrating on groups. But I had a little, so my other group, my like-minded business owners group that has about 1,300 small businesses in it, over Christmas 2021, so the start of this year and the last year. So I have a virtual assistant who helps me a lot in that group, and we decided to not do some of the activities that we'd been doing for the last 11 and a half months. I still think I'm paying the price for that. like 8 months later, I still think that group is finding it hard to wind up. I had a really engaged, a really great group, and I still do, but I can see that it has fallen off. And I blame the fact that we didn't keep up the consistency that we had for like 4 weeks. And somehow we have fallen off some people's feeds. There is the little trick that has come out in the last little bit where you can tag everyone in a group. And I warn you to use it very, very sparingly because people don't want it. But you just use the @ symbol. And if you have it, once you use the @ symbol, it will come up with everyone. So you could always try and do a very strategic post of, you know, who's still in here, who's still interested, wanted to reintroduce myself, everybody tell me 3 things about themselves, you know, things like that. And that will tag everybody in your group, and you'll see then what sort of a response you get.
That's a really good idea. That's fantastic.
But sort of use it very, I guess, strategically. But also the first time to try and get the group more activated, like, you know, tell me 3 things no one knows about you, or, you know, just try and, like, everyone's favorite subject is themselves. So if you try and reflect it back on themselves, then, you know, they might be more likely to type and get interested, which then hopefully might just tell the algorithm that, you know, these people are interested. And then if you start consistent content, it may help, most certainly. But I think also we need to look at our own habits when it comes to social media. I talk about this a lot, where I know myself, like, you know, reels are all the rage on Instagram and everyone should do reels. Well, I can watch reels for about 20 minutes and I will not like or comment on a single goddamn thing because I forget. I just get in this flicking rhythm. So I think we need to, you know, look at the analytics as well. Is your group really unengaged? Are people actually seeing it and just not taking action, or is no one seeing it? Because they're 2 very different conversations. If, you know, if your group's got 200 people in it and 50 people are seeing the post but no one liked it, then you know the algorithm is showing it to people. But if you put up a post and you've got 200 people and 5 people are seeing it, you've got a problem with, you know, the content and the algorithm. And
how do you know if they're seeing it though?
You should be able to see on the post, it should see what the reach
Oh,
is.
the reach. Oh, yeah.
So if you've still got good reach but no comments and likes, that's not an algorithm problem. That's, I would say, a bit of a content issue. Which means that maybe you need to bring the content again back to them talking about themselves. But if you have no reach, then that's probably more likely an algorithm problem.
Oh, okay. That's so good.
And Jen, one of the things that, and Michelle's being incredibly impatient because she started again last Tuesday. It's not that we've had a month of her doing this. It will slowly but surely, Michelle.
I love that.
It's just, look, you expect it all to happen and it doesn't, and you go, what am I doing wrong? How can I change it? You know, and it's just, reaching people is probably my biggest frustration because I know I've got a good, I'm offering them some fantastic stuff, but it's just getting in front of them. And
it's also about building that group as well. Like, don't keep it a secret. Like, where else are you talking about? I know you said you tried to go into other people's groups, but are you talking about it on Instagram stories or Instagram or your Facebook page or your LinkedIn? Are you driving traffic still to get new blood into
I obviously need to do a lot more, Jean.
Well, it's a good start though, Michelle.
Look, of course. And when you say consistent, do you mean 3 times a week or every day you're posting something, or?
Not so much that, but more, say for instance, you decide to do some lives or do some videos or something like that. It's more, don't not do them. So don't do one and then not one for a month. Like, you know, and don't do 5 in a week and then none the next week. Just try to be consistent. Like, yes, you know, personally with groups, I think they need daily interactions. So whether that's, you know, I do a lot of posting of questions or giving them the opportunity to talk about themselves. But I don't think consistency is necessarily so much about how many times a week you do it and things like that. But it's more about, don't go all in and then nothing, and then all in and nothing. Try and be consistent over a month. Yeah. Mm.
Thank you. Some great advice. I don't want to hold you up. I'm sure other people have got questions, but thank you so much. It's lovely.
Well,
Has anyone else got any questions? I've got a big long list of them, if not.
Jenny's got a hand up, but she hasn't got a
Jean.
camera on. So
Jean from New Zealand. Oh, is there something?
Oh, it's me. Hi.
Jenny Hardy.
Oh,
Down the
Jenny.
bottom. Yeah. The
Hello,
other
Jenny.
Jenny in the room.
And we're often wearing blue, and we're often in the same breakout rooms. It's always things happen between.
Yeah, we're supposed
Jen
to
and
be.
I've got a question with regards to your show up. Community needs a leader. As most people in this group and other groups know, I don't do Facebook. I don't do photos. I don't do anything along those lines. And as you're probably aware, Jen, who I am on Facebook is not who I am in real life.
I discovered that the other day. That made me giggle.
Yeah. So, not that we'll share that with anyone outside of this group. So I guess my question is, I mean, deliberately in setting up Greatest Good, I don't want to create the whole Facebook thing because I'm so anti-Facebook, because I know what it does to people's mental health and well-being. Having said that, that's the place where some of the communities at. We're doing a lot more on LinkedIn. And like Buy from the Bush, we've got a two-sided marketplace, which is conscious consumers, and our other side is for-purpose organisations, so charities, not-for-profits, B Corps and social enterprises. And I guess the question is, how do you show up to be a leader when you've got different personas on different platforms? And it doesn't need to be me. Because
I feel like Jenny knows the answer to this, but I think you go for it, Jen.
Does it need to be you? I guess that comes down to perhaps the business model that you have. Like if you are trying to create something as a saleable asset and you don't want it to be connected necessarily entirely to you, then that's a different business model to trying to build a brand around who you are and what you do. Look, communities need a leader. Like, that's probably my quickest and easiest response. Doesn't need to be you. That's probably a conversation as to who else would it be if it wasn't you.
Yeah, I guess I want to make it more about the impact that we're having rather than about it being me driving it, if that makes sense. So, and yeah, people are saying it has to be you initially, they have to know you and trust you and all the things that you said before, but it's like it has to be bigger than me. Like, it's not that I want to sell this business, but I want it to be able to go on and be about the good that we're doing rather than it being about me driving it.
So if you were going to do, like, I think of something similar, I guess, with Buy from a Bush business and Spend with Us, like, it's obviously a lot bigger than us, but in order to, hit our marketing strategy targets and that sort of thing, a certain amount of it has to be through the media. So who else is going to show up in the media except the business partners who drive it? Who else is going to write that blog or that article for Koshies or, for Business Insiders or, turn up on the TV show to promote it and things like that. So in that sort of capacity, someone has to be the face of the business. I don't know. Does anyone agree or disagree or have any other thoughts around that? Because I guess, my presentation was all about, building trust and showing up. So that's the angle I'm going to, but I'm more than happy to open my eyes a little bit more. I don't know.
I would just personally say that I absolutely loathe people coming into any group as their business rather than themselves. Every once in a while, and I am talking about Facebook here, Jenny, but it is across everything, is that if you can't see the person behind it, you don't trust it. It just sounds like it could be a corporation. And for you to grow your business now and put yourself forward doesn't mean that you can't back off as it starts getting its own momentum. I'm sure every single, and I don't know, Jen, but every single person inside Buy from a Bush business probably doesn't know you now, but probably knew you when there were the first 5,000.
Yes.
So you can back off and put other people on, but you do need to kind of build it a bit around yourself because you are the driving force. You are the reason why you've created it. So you just talk about other people all the time when you do it. You don't have to talk about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. And that's kind of what I do. But I guess it just means that, like, on LinkedIn, it's me. On Facebook and Instagram, it's actually the organisation. It's actually a greatest good Instagram and Facebook rather than an individual one.
Yeah, and you'll find that if you try and get into communities as greatest good, people still you won't get the same engagement as if you go in as Jenny and this is what I've created and why.
Yep.
But even like in Buy From Bush business, like people come in as their business name, the algorithm doesn't treat them the same as the human that comes in and posts. Like it's blatantly obvious. It's actually quite horrific, how obvious that is as far as reach goes and engagement goes. Business names just don't get the traction. So, I guess the alternative is you don't build it on Facebook. You build it in places that people hang out. And will engage with you, but places where you feel your community is better served.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nikki. Oh, sorry.
No, I think it was Nikki, but I just don't know whether Jean had her hand up. She was waiting first.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, the background. Just a very quick question. This has been great, Jen. Thank you. Just going back to consistency, as far as people engage, I had a group ages ago which I let drop, and I want to start it again. But can you see from the analytics what time of the day people are engaging? Because I know one of the things I've heard is that if you consistently post at a certain time every day, it will bring people in at that time because they expect something to pop up then. I really appreciate your thoughts on that.
You could certainly do that with pages and Instagram, but the analytics for groups, I don't think that goes that far. It really only gives you growth. And let me have a look under the engagement tab. It will tell you when people are most online. Yes. Yeah. So if I look at my group, maybe if I share that screen, might be.
Great idea.
Thank you. This is great.
You can can you see that screen with the analytics?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So you can see there, like on Mondays, you can see the most popular times and how many people. Great. I don't know if that means how many people were on. I don't think it does. So, and then Tuesdays, you can kind of see what the most popular times are and create posts around that.
I always remember Katrina McCarter, who was specialist in Facebook for mums, saying to me, Christmas Day is the best day of the year to get to women on Facebook, and that Sunday afternoons are also a really strong time.
Yeah, Sunday afternoons, Sunday mornings and Sunday afternoons are a really powerful time to be posting some of your best content on social, I would say. Because people are sort of, just sitting there doing not much. Not
so distracted.
Yes, yeah. So let me just have a look at the big group. Engagement.
Wow, your stats would be crazy with that many people following. I mean, it can give you real insights.
Yeah. So you can sort of see there, like, the most.
2 o'clock on a Saturday. Interesting.
Yeah. If I bring up Sundays.
So how do you get to that part of the analytics?
So it's down under insights. There's growth, engagement, participation, shops.
Under managed group, which is in settings, I think, isn't it?
Well, it's just automatically, if your Facebook looks like mine, it's just automatically there. You don't have to go to settings anymore in the new one.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
If it's not there, then it is under settings. But yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So that might help with a bit of content management and when to post in there and things like that, or when to go live. Would be a good idea.
Thanks, Jen. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay. And then you've got Nikki and then Marg.
Hi, sorry.
Hey, Nikki.
Just eating lunch for the kids.
Do you want Marg to go first while you just do the sandwiches or whatever?
No, it's all good. It's all done. No, I was just going to mention before, like Jenny was saying about the whole, like, you know, your profile and everything like that. Like Jules is a bit more aware of this, but my name that I've put on social media is not my official name in real life. And I did that on purpose because it's still me. I mean, the same persona and everything like that. But I think I did that based on, you know, I wanted that privacy later on, and I wanted that separation, that sort of point of separation. So it was my question with respect to that is, you know, is the perception that people might have, obviously they know me as Nikki Kelly, that's okay to keep going that way, isn't it? Or could that have a detrimental effect later down the track on the brand? Like from your experience in marketing and everything like that, could that affect anyone?
No, I think it's more people who show up with a different persona that affects their brand more so. Would be my experience. Like if I met you in real life and you were different to who I met at She's the Boss on lunches, that would make me go, ooh, you know, who's this type of thing. So I think it's more the personality, the values, the way you show up, things like that. It's certainly shouldn't be someone you're not. Like, you know, if I write an email to, you know, Nikki Kelly and you know, it comes back as somebody else, then that.
No.
Yeah. Look, but I don't think it's about the name necessarily. Like, you know, there's some big names out there. You know, Madonna's real name isn't Madonna and it doesn't affect her brand, but you know, I'm assuming if I met her, she'd be as crazy in real life as what I think she is online type of thing. So I think that's more what can damage a brand is somebody showing up that's different.
Persona.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because it's the early stages of, you know, building, you know, my, you know, the podcast and all that sort of stuff. And it's just one of those things where I thought to myself, I probably should ask someone who knows more about this because I was a bit concerned that, you know, people
I will
might
say
think
that
there's a reason behind it. It's only about privacy, to be honest.
Yeah. I will say that growth means everything though. Like, you know, if you had Jules, the Jenn Donovan that Jules met 10 years ago isn't the Jenn Donovan that shows up today. Like there has been an enormous amount of personal growth to get to where I am, like as far as being confident in showing up and doing podcasts and doing lives and speaking and things like that. So yeah, like there is personal growth. So you may feel differently as time moves on, I guess. But yeah, I don't think there's any,
the only other thing I would add is I remember my brother's very senior in advertising and marketing, and I remember saying to him years ago, I don't want anyone to really know about me and what I'm doing on Facebook. I just want them to know about my business. And so therefore I don't want to use, and my brother said to me something that still really resounds with me. And he said, you need to build both. And the reason for that is they'll feed off each other. But when eventually you sell one business or whatever you decide to do, you're not going to have to go back to scratch to go and build another one because you'll have a certain amount of profile and people that follow you that'll take you to the next one. And I just thought that that was really interesting advice, and it helped me make a decision that I was going to work under my own name, because in the end, then when I stopped doing She's the Boss, or when I stopped doing Handle Your Own PR and moved to She's the Boss, people came with me.
Yeah. And I certainly, you know, I know Jules knows my history and that sort of thing. Like I had a marketing business with a gentleman in Melbourne, and you know, he did the marketing, I did the social media marketing through it, and I built his brand, and I built it and I built it and I built it, and then all of a sudden our partnership went to crap. And it was just like, oh, I forgot to build me. It was a really hard lesson to learn. So and
it's taken 10 years really to get you back up to this stage where you're now bigger than he ever was.
Like maybe, but you know, don't kind of compare sausages, but you know, it's kind of like it was one of those business mistakes that I would say to people is build your own brand as well. Anyway, yes,
Marg.
Find the unmute button. Thank you. So I have a question about pages and groups.
Yes.
So my page has been, you know, gathering its following, and I've been working on, you know, all my content goes on the page. And I wondered about having a group as well as a page. Is that just another place for people to have to find you, come, us post into, or, you know, so what's the benefit of a group over a page? Why have both, or which one would you have?
Yeah, it is just another place you have to produce content for. Let's just, you know, say it as it is, basically. But it, to me, it's all about the algorithm. So pages are basically, I would say, and happy to have this discussion with everybody, but I would say your pages are like a resume now. They're for people who search and find you to find out if you're active, what you do in your business, etc., etc. But the engagement, they're dead in the water. Like, unless you pay to play, and we all need pages to be able to pay, because that's how, you know, the system works in the back end. But there are not a lot of super engaged pages out there anymore, and that's nothing to do with the people who own them or run them. It is simply because the Zucks of the world just don't want you to have too much over there, because then you won't pay for it. Whereas groups, you know, like I can post something on my page and might reach, I don't know, 10, or no, probably not that, 5% of people, but in my group I might get 75% or 57% of the people in my group. So the ability to reach people who know, like, and trust me, and who want to be part of my world is a lot bigger in my group than what it is actually, you know, through a page. So that's the main reason why I would say about building groups. Yeah, they take work. Like I said, I have a virtual assistant who helps me, you know, with my group and schedules content into my group. I do as well, but, you know, we follow a bit of a pattern, and she consistently does that for me. So, you know, sometimes it feels like you know, doing things backwards. I'm paying someone to help me build a free group, but at the end of the day, it's a business decision to hopefully build more people in my community who are ready to buy when I've got something to sell.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, I guess, because I haven't done a group. I've just had the page. And as I think I've got private groups, you know, we might do a 5-day challenge on something, or, you know, I've got a private group for the women who come to my women's circles where we talk about what we do in circle. But I hadn't thought about having a group, because effectively I think I'm treating my page as my group.
Yes. Yeah.
And so how would you go about then, I guess, moving people to your group? I know I can set up a group and just invite everybody and then, like, hope that they come. It's kind of it, right?
Yeah, I guess there's got to be something different. What are you going to do that's different in there to what you're doing on your page, and work out, you know, a bit of a strategy to make sure you're doing things differently. But again, like, you know, we're talking about Facebook groups here and things like that. So making sure, of course, that your people are on Facebook. Like, if your people are on Instagram or LinkedIn, then that's a different conversation. You don't have to be on, well, you do have to be on Facebook, but you don't have to sort of, you know, be trying to create things on Facebook if that's not where your people are. Like the Instagram friends chat or the Instagram friends group type of thing, that's one of the most powerful tools we've got at this point in time, you know, where we can send content that's just for, you know, half dozen people, or, you know, just our private clients or something like that. Again, making them feel special and things. But if your people are on Facebook, then I think a group is, you know, a good thing to do. But I also think that it needs promotion. So it needs you to talk about it on other platforms as you get people in. Like Jules, I think you do a really great job of your group. She's the boss, but I think also the people in the group invite other people into the group. Like they talk about the group as that little bit of ownership that they've got. So they're bringing people in as well as Jules bringing people in.
That's what I was going to say. If you wanted to just maybe talk about the difference between public and private, because I am in love with public groups. Because every time I post and anyone posts, everyone in their community sees it. Whereas in a private group, it's going into an echo chamber with you and just those people that are there. So a public group can be great, but you just end up with weirdos coming in. So you've got to go in and make sure that you've got to approve, you know, posts if they're from people that you haven't automatically, you know, there's a whole lot of management stuff you need to do. But public groups will grow faster.
Yeah, they will grow faster. The only thing strategically from a business point of view, in America, you can have a paid private group. So you can actually charge people to be in your group, $1, $10, whatever, as a monthly subscription model. It hasn't come into Australia yet, but if you have a public group, you can never turn it. Sorry, you can turn it private, but if you have a private group, you can never make it public. So it's all these little things when you're setting it up as, you know, what works best for you. And, you know, if one day we got the ability to charge people, you know, to come into our group, would that be something your business would be able to do or desire to do? Well, that might swing, you know, whether you do a public or a private. But yeah, having that private group from the very start means that you can never make it public. At this stage, but who would know? They'll probably change the rules. So, and I'll be wrong. But yeah, I guess the way to build a group is to build a group that other people want to invite other people into.
I'm going off to set up my group.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Has anyone else got a question? Otherwise, Jen, I want to know how you manage 200 requests, 200 to 500 requests a day. Like if we do grow and get that kind of thing, because in She's the Boss, I probably every day we get 3 15 or 12-year-old Nigerian. Who's that? Can you hear me?
Sorry, Jules, you're disappearing, sweetie.
Oh,
everyone else is here. Yeah, it's not my Wi-Fi.
No.
Okay.
Jules.
I have a question.
Okay.
Hello, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hello, Jen. I'm good. Oh, you know, my life.
Yeah, so great to have you here.
Story. So, yeah, I just put in the chat a question. So I